get so mad, there's no controlling me. My thoughts get so bad, I'm like, oh God, here goes. I lost all feeling from my head to my toes. You said some shit that I can't let go, so just stay tuned for the rest of the show.
Thinking of Infocom in particular now, it's around the corner.
Yeah.
I'm so unprepared for it, but I'll throw things into. I mean, yeah, on Twitter, I think a few of my lovely Twitter friends like Renee Benson and Erin. Honestly, Erin has a spreadsheet for her packing. So this is my shout out to Erin. And I'm not that organized at all. How prepared? So I had a conversation with Alicia Henley, who you've probably seen her social media posts, right? And we spoke about hair and how it feels to be a Black woman. And it seems to be exclusively Black women rather than Black men, where people will come and want to touch their hair. And that invasion of their space where they might not even know them, but they're like, I'm going to touch your hair. And she shared that she has to prepare herself and get in the zone for being at a show and actually making sure that she didn't look too ethnic or too anything. And that's why it really, I loved what you just said there. It's not you, it's not about you being seen as anything other than who you are.
Yeah.
And why should anybody look at you and think that's Jessica, or look at you and think that's a transgender person? Like, why would that even be a thing? You know, and it's a similar thing. I think appearance is really hard. So how do you prepare? You've done a couple of shows now. You've done NAB as well.
Yeah.
How do you get and also, I guess, we all missed a couple of years. So I mean, I've more or less caught up with people, but actually even this Infocom, I know I'm going to meet people for the first time, including you.
Yeah.
How are you, or how have you prepared, or how will you prepare for the people who you haven't seen for a few years, who you know this is the show that you're going to see them?
Yeah, it's a very good question. You know, I purposely asked to go to NAB this year because that wasn't a big show for me whatsoever. I had a couple meetings, but it was important for me to feel comfortable at that show and talking to people and honestly being misgendered at times, or, you know, things like that, and just kind of get a little bit used to it. So I kind of got some practice in at that show, but I think a week later I was at a different show for one of our disties, and that was a scary show for me. Not that anything negative had happened or anything, but like gearing up for it, just because I knew a lot of people there. You know, most of the people I had known or had, you know, a very strong, you know, relationship with in the past or whatever. And like that was a big close show for me. And it was kind of scary. I remember walking in, because I'm always early for everything, at least I try to be, walking in early, and like I'm like in my mind, like so in my head about what's going on and going to happen, and like trying to make sure that I look just 100%, you know, right. And it's like now that's not always the case. You know, it's like I'm gonna look as best as I can. But you know, walking down the hall to one of this to the trade show at this regional, for this distributor, someone completely said hi to me and I didn't even realize it, because I was so thinking about the next, you know, 15 minutes passing all these people that I've not seen before. And it honestly, it taught me a lot. It taught me not to feed off of people's uncomfortableness or maybe their own like hesitancies to address you, that it's on you to make others feel comfortable and warm and invited to have a conversation with you, and like to feel just completely at ease with themselves. So I got to my little booth area, and I just kind of like, you know, it's like, okay, You're going to be fine. You're safe. These people, these people, you're going to be great. And I put my focus on my work, and I was happy. I didn't realize it, but I was happy, and I was very, cheerful and very fun to be around, is what someone told me. And it's like, oh, this is what that actually feels like. But it was definitely nerve wracking going into a show like Infocom. I've been fortunate to have gone to all my clients since I've came out, and see everyone, and had, face-to-face conversations, so I felt comfortable. But Infocom, it's a massive trade show. There's going to be people there that, especially in the state that it's in, that are going to be, we'll use the word, hesitant to have a conversation with a trans person. And you know what? That's their prerogative. If I need to pass them off to someone else on my team, I absolutely will. But I'm going to go in with just a positive mindset, and, like, okay, and not to read into people's glares or glances, or, I always laugh because I will sometimes have a scowl on my face and not even realize it. And I'm sure I've looked at people and they've thought, oh my gosh, why is this person staring me up? And like, no, that was farthest from the truth. And it's not a naivety, or it's not about just keeping your head, in the clouds, but it's for your own mental goodness. One of my
Absolutely.
favorite authors, Brene Brown, has a statement that says, basically, forget the people in the cheap seats. And for me, that means that people that I don't allow to speak into my life, those people in the cheap seats are those that I'm going to just pass, on the trade show floor, or I'm going to come in contact for just a second, and I'll respect them, but I'm not going to give them credence to speak into my life. I'm going to have, and this is something I've learned, is to create boundaries. And honestly, beyond that, I was talking to, my counselor, and I told her, I was like, I feel like I hold myself in a higher standard now than I ever have in my life. And I think that's because I take myself more seriously. I am, my living my true identity. I don't feel the need to hide behind, self-deprecating humor, or the need to, seek validation from others. I'm completely comfortable with myself, and I'm not going to allow anyone in those cheap seats to speak of anything different. So,
Could not agree more. And there's a huge generosity in your attitude, actually, huge generosity.
thank you.
But I also think that self-preservation,
Yeah.
you can't underestimate that. I completely agree that actually it's really hard sometimes to not take things personally, and not feel that you're the victim all the time,
Exactly.
when
And
actually it's nothing about you. It's
yeah.
about that. It's what that person's going through, whether that's their insecurity or their ignorance, or but I'll tell you something funny about looks. I'm losing my eyesight, like it's like
Oh no.
running. It's age, it's I remember actually when it first started to go post 40. I tell people I'm 21 all the time, but it's like several times over now. But it's I now actually, without my glasses, I can barely read without my glasses, but now I probably should wear them a bit longer. I probably should go for varifocals, but I'm resisting. But I've been at shows where people have said, oh, I actually genuinely haven't seen them. So that there's also an element where that could have been somebody misinterpreting,
Yeah.
and actually because they're feeling insecure, or feeling that, oh, she looked at me a certain way. I just shout out for the ones of us who are aging and have aging eyes. Sometimes it's a lot kinder to
Yeah.
yourself to not read too much into other people's commentary, even.
And And until you've learned to set boundaries, you're not going to be able to get to that
No,
point.
no.
Until you realize who you should actually allow into speak into your life. I don't allow the social media. I don't allow the news cycle. I don't allow the latest negative press on whatever to really speak into my life. And like, again, it's not that I'm choosing to live in this ideology or this head in the clouds mindset. It's just I'm not going to give credence because
It doesn't serve you.
it does exactly. There's very little that can be done regardless. I can't change that person's opinion in the limited time that I would have for an interaction.
Yeah.
So, it was one of the things, like I had a really close friend um in the industry, and I watched, I watched with my postings and stuff like that, like no comments whatsoever. And I'm like, okay, whatever. I'm not going to let that bother me. And then we're at an event, and he just addresses, oh, hey, Jessica, how are you? And just like biggest hug, introduced me to people. It's like, there's just sometimes there's things that we will allow people's lack of response to play into a negative viewpoint of how they perceive you. And very often that is not the case. And it's just allowing people to get comfortable and allowing people to understand, that you're still the same person, is one of the biggest things I could ever say. Just give people time.
So that's a very interesting point there, actually, because a couple of years ago now, there was an incident that hit our national media, and it had happened at an AV company, and I had posted something on LinkedIn. Actually, somebody else had posted it. I reposted it with my comments.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't sit on my hands. I was so I just felt so passionately about it. I had to put something out, and I had thousands of views on that post, thousands and thousands of views.
Yeah.
But in terms of likes or supports, I don't even think it hit 50.
Yeah.
And yet you could post something really trivial. And this was something that, my message was, if you are human and you've got a pulse, then this should concern all of you. If you want to, none of us are, the phrase "no man is an island."
Right.
We all have to interact with each other and have to have some level of communication. We're not operating in silos. So if we don't care and we don't stand up and we don't call out poor behavior and discrimination when we see it, it affects all of us. If it doesn't affect me today, it will affect my children tomorrow. And it's on all of us. It's on all of us to play our
Yeah.
part. And
I will.
but people they won't like that.
Right.
But you could post something really trivial about, I don't know, I fell down the stairs, or I got a new puppy or something, and
Yeah.
you will get thousands of likes and loves and hearts and supports.
So I want to try to say this how I'm feeling it. I would ask for those of you who are not, not in the community, the LGBTQIA plus community, or just, you identify as cis normative, or whatever the case is, that you would not judge anyone that is within that community or those brackets by what you feel is the worst representation of that community. And
Yeah.
I think that happens a lot, where in our mind, someone may see, a trans person who's XYZ and, got a lot of media attention, or that we're all this way, that you would classify everyone as, a certain sect. And it's like, no, that's not the case. Most people just want to live their normal, normal lives and be seen as just a person. We're not we're not social media icons or social media celebrities. We're just normal everyday people looking for our way in this world.
And that's such a beautiful point to end on, actually.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough